The first punch knocked the old biker off his motorcycle. The second shattered his glasses. By the time the sixth man joined in, people on the busy roadside had already decided it wasn't their problem. They watched. They recorded. They walked away. Only one man carrying a worn toolbox and thinking about getting home to his little daughter stepped forward without a second thought. He wasn't a fighter. He wasn't a hero. He was simply a single father who couldn't bear watching another human being suffer. Before the next sunrise, over 100 members of the Hells Angels would quietly surround his tiny auto garage, and the entire town would believe the worst was about to happen. If you believe kindness is never wasted, no matter how dangerous the situation, please like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share this story with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel to become part of our growing family that believes in forgiveness, courage, and second chances. Gavin Mercer had spent the last 5 years rebuilding a life that had collapsed almost overnight. His wife had passed away after a sudden illness, leaving him to raise his 9-year-old daughter, Elsie, alone. Every sunrise began the same way. He prepared breakfast, braided Elsie's hair with awkward determination that had slowly become surprisingly neat, packed her lunch, drove her to school, and then unlocked the faded blue doors of Mercer Auto Repair. The garage wasn't large. The paint peeled from its walls, and the waiting room held mismatched chairs donated by neighbors. But Gavin treated every customer honestly, charging only what was necessary because he remembered too well what it felt like to choose between groceries and repairs. The town respected Gavin because he never complained. Even when business slowed, he smiled. Even when his hands bled from repairing engines in freezing weather, he smiled. His greatest fear wasn't poverty. It was failing Elsie. Every dollar he earned carried a purpose, every late afternoon meant another chance to provide a better tomorrow for the only family he had left. That afternoon had started like any other. The sun shone brightly across the highway while traffic rolled steadily past the garage. Gavin had closed early to attend Elsie's school art exhibition. Her drawing of the two of them standing beside their garage had already earned a blue ribbon, and she had begged him not to be late. With his toolbox resting in the back of his pickup, Gavin noticed a crowd gathering near a roadside diner. People stood in a loose circle, holding phones instead of helping. As he drew closer, he saw 6 young men surrounding an older biker whose gray beard was stained with blood. His motorcycle lay on its side several feet away. The old rider wasn't fighting back anymore. Age and exhaustion had taken over. The 6 attackers laughed each time he struggled to stand. Something inside Gavin refused to let him drive away. That he pulled onto the shoulder, stepped from his truck, and hurried toward the group with nothing more than determination in his eyes. His voice remained calm, asking them to stop before someone was seriously hurt. They answered with mocking laughter. One of the bullies shoved Gavin backward, assuming the mechanic would retreat. Instead, Gavin stood again. That he wasn't stronger than they were, but courage often appears strongest in people who have everything to lose. The struggle lasted only a few chaotic minutes. Gavin blocked kicks, pulled the injured biker away, and used his heavy toolbox to keep the attackers from closing in again without seriously harming anyone. The unexpected resistance drew enough attention that passing drivers finally called the police. Realizing trouble was coming, the 6 men scattered into waiting cars and disappeared down the highway. Gavin knelt beside the injured rider. The older man had cuts across his face, bruised ribs, and trembling hands, yet his eyes held quiet gratitude. Gavin helped lift the fallen motorcycle upright before insisting the stranger receive medical attention first. At the local clinic, Gavin stayed long enough to ensure the biker received treatment. The old man introduced himself as Roland Beckett. Roland thanked Gavin repeatedly, but Gavin brushed away every word of praise. He explained that anyone should have done the same. Roland smiled sadly because they both knew almost nobody had. Before leaving, Roland asked where Gavin worked. Gavin simply handed him one of the inexpensive business cards he kept in his wallet. Then he rushed away, arriving just in time to see Elsie proudly holding her ribbon. She never knew how close her father had come to serious injury only an hour earlier. The following morning dawned bright and warm. Gavin unlocked the garage while sipping coffee, expecting another ordinary day. Instead, he noticed motorcycles, dozens of them, then dozens more, chrome reflected the morning sunlight until the street itself seemed covered in silver. Within minutes nearly 100 riders had quietly parked around Mercer Auto Repair, residents peeked through curtains, customers turned their cars around, rumors spread faster than truth. People whispered that Gavin had somehow offended a notorious motorcycle club, others feared violence would erupt at any moment. Gavin felt fear tighten his chest. His first thought wasn't for himself. It was for Elsie. He immediately called the school, asking them to keep her inside until he understood what was happening. As he stepped outside, every rider seemed to watch him. Silence settled over the street. Then one motorcycle rolled slowly toward him. Roland removed his helmet. His injuries were covered by fresh bandages, but his smile had returned. He embraced Gavin with surprising warmth. The surrounding riders removed their helmets as well. There was no anger in their faces, only respect. Roland explained that the people surrounding the garage were friends who had traveled from several states after hearing how a stranger had risked everything to save one of their own without expecting anything in return. Roland admitted he had spent decades believing the world judged people by appearances: gray beard, leather vest, motorcycle. Most assumed the worst before learning his name. Yesterday, one exhausted mechanic had looked beyond all of that. Roland wanted Gavin to understand something important: kindness creates echoes. Sometimes those echoes travel farther than anyone imagines. The riders had not gathered to threaten him, they had come to thank him. Some offered free security cameras for the garage after learning about repeated thefts in the neighborhood. Others volunteered construction skills to repair the aging roof. A retired electrician rewired dangerous old circuits. Another owned a paint company and donated supplies. Mechanics from neighboring towns arrived carrying professional equipment Gavin could never have afforded. Throughout the day the tiny garage transformed. The cracked parking lot was repaired, broken windows disappeared, fresh signs replaced faded ones. Even the waiting room received comfortable furniture donated by grateful riders. Neighbors slowly stepped outside, stunned by what they witnessed. Fear gave way to curiosity. Curiosity became appreciation. Families brought homemade food. Children asked to sit on the motorcycles. The same street that had expected violence instead witnessed one of the largest volunteer projects the town had ever seen. Elsie arrived after school holding her father's hand tightly. At first she looked nervous. Then Roland knelt carefully despite his bruised ribs and handed her a small wooden box. Inside rested a beautifully carved wrench made from polished oak. He explained that real strength wasn't measured by muscles or motorcycles. It was measured by choosing kindness when everyone else chose comfort. Elsie hugged him with the innocent gratitude only a child can offer. Many of the hardened riders quietly wiped tears from their eyes. Weeks passed. Business at Mercer Auto Repair flourished, not because people feared the bikers, because people had witnessed honesty rewarded with generosity. Customers trusted Gavin even more than before. The garage became known as a place where struggling families received fair prices and honest work. Roland often stopped by during afternoon rides. Sometimes he simply drank coffee while watching Elsie finish homework at the office desk. The unlikely friendship healed something inside both men. Gavin no longer carried every burden alone. Roland no longer believed strangers would always judge him unfairly. Months later the 6 young men responsible for the roadside attack appeared again. This time they looked nothing like the arrogant group from before. Community service ordered by the court had forced them to confront the consequences of their violence. One of them had recently lost his own father, another admitted he had joined the group only because he feared being excluded. Shame had replaced pride. They stood outside the garage uncertain whether forgiveness was even possible. Gavin remembered the bruises on Roland's face. He remembered Elsie waiting for him that afternoon. He also remembered how Mercy had rebuilt his own life after losing everything. Instead of turning them away, Gavin offered them work cleaning the property and learning basic mechanical skills. The first day was uncomfortable. The second became easier. By the third week they arrived early without being asked. Grease replaced arrogance, responsibility replaced excuses. Roland watched from a distance before eventually walking over. No one expected what happened next. He shook each young man's hand. He told them that becoming better mattered more than pretending they had never made mistakes. Real courage wasn't found in winning fights. It was found in becoming someone who no longer wanted them. Those words stayed with the young men long after they left the garage. Several eventually found steady jobs. One enrolled in technical school. Another volunteered coaching youth sports to keep teenagers away from violence. The town slowly forgot the attack. Instead, It remembered the rebuilding that followed. Years later, visitors often asked why an old carved wooden wrench hung above the garage entrance. Every employee knew the story. It wasn't displayed because of motorcycles. It wasn't displayed because of fear. It hung there because one ordinary father had refused to become another silent witness while someone suffered. His courage had inspired kindness from unexpected places, proving that compassion often returns multiplied beyond imagination. Before we reach the end of this journey, we'd love to hear from you. Please leave a meaningful comment telling us about a moment when someone showed you unexpected kindness or when you chose to help a stranger even though it wasn't easy. As the sun set gently over the repaired garage, Gavin locked the doors beside Elsie while Roland prepared for another peaceful ride across the countryside. None of them could have predicted that one brave decision made on an ordinary afternoon would forever connect lives that seemed to belong to completely different worlds. The greatest miracles rarely begin with wealth, power, or fame. They begin with a single choice to stand beside someone who has been abandoned by everyone else. Kindness cannot erase every wound, but it can begin healing hearts that have almost forgotten hope exists. Gavin remained an ordinary mechanic, Roland remained an aging biker, and Elsie continued dreaming beneath the bright daylight that filled their little town, but together they became living proof that courage inspires compassion, compassion builds community, and forgiveness creates futures no one thought possible. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. May this reminder stay with you wherever life takes you. The smallest act of courage can become the beginning of someone else's second chance, and sometimes the greatest family we ever find is the one built through simple acts of kindness.